Still technically in the stream because our voices are in here, but let me start with this. Wow. Whoa, I have to tell you, Max, anytime any of you guys have like been the super amazing humble man that says, I can't believe you're calling me a master. And then I go find this video of you doing that, and I'm like, hello.
Well, I mean,
wow.
it might be a fundamental sort of personality trait of an artist not to like their own work, and I know that's how I feel about a lot of my stuff. Nothing's ever good enough, right?
Blew me away. Like, now clearly you can tell that I took the video and I sped it up even more so that it would be shrunk down to a minute intro.
Yeah, it was a while video. Yeah.
No, the way it is normally is actually really good. So I encourage anyone who saw that or gets to see it to go to Max's YouTube channel, and check that out. It's in one of his playlists. And so Mo is in the chat. Luke is in the chat. Mo says, "Hail, Luke." So I haven't done a lot of them, but I have been turning some of them into time-lapse videos. God bless you.
Thank you.
And so that's been really fun. And that was a super fantastic find. And I apologize, really honestly, I wish I had seen it sooner. Like, it wouldn't have, I already knew that level of awe from you. I've seen your work. I've gotten to have some exposure to it. That just blew, I'm like, and especially as I just recently did a Joker.
Yes, yeah, it was good.
My first Joker. Not even, and I'm like, you could try to aspire to do a Max Joker, but yeah,
that wasn't my first Joker, not by a long shot.
Right? I was gonna say, and I didn't realize you use airbrushing.
Only sometimes.
That's so cool. Like, I was like, what is this? My favorite thing to say even out loud or in my head when I'm doing something spectacular is I'm like, what is this sorcery? And it was.
It's weird, isn't it? When you watch artists that you really enjoy and you want to take things from, you try and figure out their techniques. But I think as I've gotten more comfortable with any sort of art, I've started to realize that you just take whatever you've got and just use whatever you've got. It really doesn't matter.
I can totally relate to that. Crimson Al is also here. He says, "What's up, everyone?" Hey. Okay, so I'm gonna just throw you into the shallow end, actually. So the first part of today's show is called Spitlights. It's a form of spitballing where I'm just gonna throw some quick little warm up. Let's get to know Max things, because I want to know all the facets of this master artist here, but this is important. Boots or sneakers?
Boots.
Any particular reason the preference is what it is?
I like the aesthetic of boots. Plus, boots last a lot longer because I've got like a fair few pairs of Docker boots.
Okay.
So they last for ages.
Do you ever wear sneakers?
Occasionally. Yeah. If I can't be asked to lace up the boots.
So that might maybe make me guess jacket on this one, but hoodie or jacket?
I'm partial to a bit of both.
Okay. Okay.
I sometimes wear my hoodie under my leather jacket.
Oh, see, this. Yes, I knew that we were friends for a reason. I'm not familiar with every part of the world and the countries of the world, but this is a question I have in here: beach or mountains?
I mean, if you're talking about where I'm from, then it'd have to be mountains, if you could call them that.
Is because there is no beach, or okay.
I mean, there is, Doris, but the beaches in England ain't that nice.
So what?
Our weather's pretty.
Exactly are you? You don't have to tell me exactly. Like
I'm
I don't
in
know your address, but
I'm in the very centre of England. I live in the Midlands.
Wow, nice.
So it's around the Birmingham
city
area.
living.
Sorry?
So city, like you're in a city?
No, I live in a little town
okay.
called Lichfield, which is about 45 minutes drive away from Birmingham, which is the closest city.
So if I were to visit, what it would be a historic, a landmark or a go-to place to go to visit if I were to come to your neighborhood neck of the woods? You got to see this.
Okay, where I'm originally from, which is a town about 6 miles down the road, that's where the police force was formed.
Ooh, okay.
And the town the city that is it's called the city, but to you it would be a tiny little old town.
Okay.
We've got castles in it and stuff. So where I live now was the trading centre for the entirety of Britain. So everybody would come to Lichfield to trade all their stuff. I think they've been doing that for hundreds of years. And of course, now things are like they are. It's just
right.
It's a very oldie worldy. Lots of old buildings. There's a few little castles around. It's very rural.
This is just off cuff, but like as an artist, have you ever done rubbings? Have you ever gone out and looked for interesting, intricate type things to do a rubbing on it to get like an impression?
I've never done rubbings, but moving to Lichfield specifically was I definitely took into consideration the environment as far as what impact that would have on my art, because it's like living in a little town from Lord of the Rings.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
I ask because what made me think of it was I don't travel often, rarely travel, but when I do travel, and one of the few times I can remember, one of the things I try to do is a rubbing of something during my trip. It doesn't just, even if it's just one. Okay, let me make sure we catch up on. So everyone's saying hello in chat and to each other. Chat's getting friendly with each other. Don't hesitate to throw up a question for Max while we've got him here. Okay, I don't know if this is a big thing in your world. Peanut butter. This is important. Creamy or chunky?
Oh, chunky.
Chunky.
Yeah, 100% chunky.
And
it's not realistic. You have to have the chunks, otherwise.
It's like, what's the point? I could have butter some other way. Yeah, I'm mostly creamy until I'm baking cookies. Until I'm baking cookies or putting it on celery, and then I want chunky.
Okay. Well, I like my peanut butter like I like my life. So.
Do you have all 4 seasons where you are? And if so, what's your favorite?
We're supposed to have all 4 seasons.
We're supposed. I know this is. I live in San Diego, so I get that you don't always get all.
Well. in Britain, we can have one day snow and then the next day it can be burning hot, but most of the time it's kind of grey. But I think that's why you get a lot of Brits that have a dry sense of humour living in that sort of environment. We never get acclimatised to one season enough to prepare for it. Okay. So if we have a little bit of snow or a little bit of rain, everything falls to pieces. Like traffic goes, people stop going to work. Yeah. But my favourite season probably summer. I like the summer.
Okay. All right. So if you could pick one spirit animal, and I love asking this of everyone, but really I love it of artists as well, because it can go all over the place. But one spirit animal or a creature, a mythical type creature, what would it be?
Oh, a bear.
Oh wait, hold on. I love tat shows. Ooh, tat shows. That's like going, tattoos to me is like seeing art on a body as opposed to a gallery. And a bear. Yeah, like I am that girl that's gonna make it weird around someone with tattoos because I'm gonna want to like look at their tattoos like I'm in the middle of a gallery and I'm like, they're like, this isn't an art show, and I'm like, I don't. You need to understand.
Kind of is. I mean, what?
Of course it is. It totally is.
Why would you? Why do you have them if you don't want people to look at them?
Have you ever done tattooing as a tattoo artist?
No, people have asked me to do designs for them, and I feel like I've always been reluctant to do them because I feel like that's a skill in its own. Do you know what I mean? And
I do know what you mean.
I'd be worried that someone would have something on their body that they'd regret because I designed it wrong. I'm not, and I certainly wouldn't tattoo on someone's skin. I don't have the steady hand. My work looks the way it does because I have to find a way to be sort of messy and sort of work it because I don't have a steady hand. I couldn't. There's a lot of beautiful in-house sort of house style American comic art with like very beautiful thin lines, and I just can't do it. I'm just not geared to do it. But I still wanted to, do what I wanted to do. So you have to find your own way around.
And you and I think we've kind of touched on that before. Like I can relate because a lot of the way my art is or why it is what it is isn't so much the steady line thing. I don't know. I can, if I have to, I can. But honestly, I don't fucking want to. I don't even want to deal with it, trying to find the patience or whatever it is to do it. I don't have time for that.
Yeah,
I gotta move on.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, I probably could do the steady lines if I really took the time. I just feel like my artwork tends to end up stiff, and I like a lot of movement in it.
Oh, I don't.
Does that make sense?
It makes sense, but stiff is not a word I would use to describe what I've seen of your art.
No, it's because I not the stuff that you've seen is where I haven't tried to do a steady line.
Oh, okay.
Like if I have, then I'll overwork.
Oh,
it.
I see. Okay,
see what I'm saying?
I see. Yep. Okay, so Crimson Naz says, Max, checking out your art, awesome stuff. Seeing a lot of fantasy and horror stuff. Is that your go-to genre?
I suppose it's just what I've fallen into. It seems to be what I'm best at the moment. But I haven't had the. I started all this kind of late, I was always the kid that drew at school, and then I had a long period of time where I was kind of in my 20s, where I was kind of just
running amok.
Running amok, getting drunk.
Were you running amok and creating shenanigans?
Yeah, and not leaving it all behind, really. So it was only within this last, say, 5 to 7 years that I sort of got back into it again. Of course, you never what you thought you were, so you have to sort of retrain yourself, don't you?
So I know you showed us your tattoo, and it's a bat. But did you say why you're drawn to them?
A bear.
A bear. Oh my God. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I think I have bat on my mind. And for those of you that are watching that missed the minute intro that we had, I played a time-lapse video of Max doing a combination of Batman with the Joker. It's a video that's in his playlist on his YouTube. The other thing is I wanted to give a quick shout out for the image that's behind us is an image called Brutal. And it's from the Indiegogo campaign for ROKAN. Max says I can say it either way.
You can say it however you like.
Ben can message me and correct me, right?
He's easy on it as well, I think. Everybody says it differently.
All right, you're going to the movies. You're bringing the lady. What is the treat? What is the food? What's the thing you're gonna have to watch that movie?
I like salty and sweet, so I'll probably have. I like chocolate and then some form of nacho.
Ooh, not so cheese too.
No, just the salted nacho, and then some chocolate, and then you sort of eat them together, right?
This is why I asked this question. You know how many different food yumminess things I've got to try now because of people's answers to this question?
Yeah, it's man, you got to have the salty and sweet works perfectly.
And while I have you, one of my friends taught me years ago, you get your big thing of buttery popcorn, super hot, like it's fresh hot, hopefully.
Yeah.
And you take a bag of plain M&Ms and you sprinkle it in there. And the
I'm
chocolate
feeling it.
the chocolate on the inside will get melty, but Max, the outside candy coating leaves them intact so they don't get all drippy on your popcorn. So when you take them out, you feeling me? You feel me?
Yeah.
Oh, some good stuff. Okay.
I have to really discipline myself with that because I'll just destroy it all. I'll just eat whatever's in front of me. So I have to keep it out of the house.
Crimson Owl Comics said he just subscribed on your
thanks,
YouTube.
Man.
And I did put the Indiegogo link in the YouTube chat, particularly if you're watching on YouTube. It is pinned in our chat on YouTube, so that if anyone wants to check out ROKAN, it is still in demand on Indiegogo. Okay, so of all the movies, no matter who you're giving this recommendation to, friend, family, foe, what's the one movie you think we all should watch?
Aliens.
The Alien, the first one or the second one?
No, this is the second one.
The second one, Aliens.
Greatest action movie ever made.
High five, Max.
Greatest action movie ever made. My favorite.
One of the best sci-fis, best action movies. The story, I mean, it really, to me, it's one of the best, and in my opinion, it's probably, other than The Godfather Part 2, it's probably one of the best sequels that's ever been made.
Absolutely, and it's got. I mean, everybody talks about this nowadays, but it's got a female protagonist that it just wasn't. It was never even spoke about at the time. It wasn't a big deal because she just did such a great job.
Did you know that when they originally wrote the original Alien script, the character Ripley was just a name on paper? There was no gender affiliated or associated.
Yes, I'd heard that. Yeah, and maybe that's how you should do it.
I think that is how you should do it. And I've shared about it a few times. One of the things it's not so shocking that she was the type of person she was, because anyone who knows anything, sort of, my dad was a Navy SEAL. So right. if you know anything about what it takes to become a lieutenant between the ears, then you'd understand Ripley. Okay. Sure. She was third in command on that ship. So the fact that she was female is kind of this byproduct side to, I don't think the gender really, I think that if it, you know what I mean? Do you get what I'm saying?
I know exactly what you mean. Yeah. It was a part that was played down to her intelligence and personality. Really, it didn't really matter whether she was a man. Well, it may have played out differently as a guy, but who knows? But she was perfect for the role, right?
Oh yeah, and he said, "Great, Crimson Owl is a great movie. The '80s came out with the best movies." Oh yeah,
they did, and I feel
music
like
and outfits and hair. Well, I don't know about the hairstyle. We can leave the hairstyle behind. We can leave the hairstyle behind. Okay,
any hair will do for me at the moment.
Okay, so I created a few rapid fire words that just made me, for some reason, made me think of these words, and these are Max words. These are Max rapid fire words. And I have a few of them. I'm going to throw them up and you can just spitball what you think about it. Freedom.
Yes.
Yes, I'll have some of that.
Yeah, I love all of that.
Do you feel
love a bit of freedom?
When you're describing the way you do your art and playing to that part of you that doesn't want to deal with the straight line thing, not deal with it, but you know what I'm getting at? Like, you've created a way, you've figured out a way to stay free in the way you create your art. Well, does that make sense?
Yeah, it would be, I would be lying if I said that I'd figured out a way. I looked at artists that I liked as a kid, and then I just tried to replicate what they did. And one of the main artists, and I always talk about this on the podcast, was a guy called Simon Bisley. I don't know if you've heard of him.
Mm-mm.
He in the 80s. Well, so in the 80s there was over here in Britain there still is. There's a comic book, a weekly comic book called 2000 AD. And they produced a story called Slain, which is a kind of a Conan the Barbarian sort of story. Oh, okay. And at the time, Bisley did the first fully painted comic, and it's absolutely beautiful. And the guy, he's one of those freaks that just can pick up a pencil and start drawing on anything.
One of those freaks.
Yeah, he's like, there's stories about the guy are crazy. Like this book's, it's called The Horned God, right? It's very famous for being the first sort of acrylic painted fine art sort of comic story. And then when you look further into it, you find out that he taught himself to paint during the book. So on the interviews, you'll be like, yeah, if you look on some of the panels, you can see my underpainting and stuff like that, and how I'm experimenting. The guy is just incredible. So I think that had the biggest impact on me. Yeah.
That's actually in my next Q&A section, but we'll revisit that. Expression. What is this word? What does this word speak to you? Expression.
I have funny relationships with with trying to break down and sort of explain my own work. When people talk about like what sort of things you're expressing when you're doing your artwork, so obviously I'm immediately associating it with the artwork. I have real difficulty explaining that sort of stuff because I honestly don't know where a lot of the stuff comes from. We spoke earlier, like when you first asked me to come on, and I was concerned that I'm too much of a simple guy, you know. I'm not sure what I know what expression means when it comes to art. I'm not sure I understand. Tell me what you think it means.
Well, in what I was going to say is, I think that is an expression, right? Because I think that, speaking for myself, I often can overthink it, care too much, try too much, aspire for something too much, and sometimes it just needs to be whatever it's going to be. And I've had many a times where, whether it's the paper or the canvas, and I go, all right, tell me. Like, I've actually had conversations with a blank canvas before and went like, dude, I don't know what I got nothing. You're going to have to help me out here. And whatever comes next. And sometimes that is perfectly, in my opinion, an excellent answer. There is no answer. There is no fucking answer.
For sure. And I think why I'm still fascinated by it is because me and you seem to be coming from opposite ends of the spectrum. Like you are, and correct me if I'm wrong, you're coming from sort of a fine art world into the comics world, right?
Yes.
And I was a graphic designer for a long time, and I always wanted to do the comic thing. And then as I was starting it, COVID happened, and I lost my job where I was. So I've gone to finish my degree. So I'm just doing the last 2 years of my last year of a fine art degree, so I can go and do a teacher's course.
Nice.
And of course, now I'm having to explain my work and talk about these things. And I never done that because the design side of art is very much, you get a brief or someone explains something to you, or they describe a character, and then you just draw from whatever. Well, it's not necessarily technical. It's just, I think I'm the sort of guy that just, if I need to know the elements involved, and when you start talking about breaking down concepts and expression, all those solid elements that I thought were there sort of turn to mist, and then I get lost and I don't know. So my tutor was asking me to describe certain paintings that I've done, and I find myself in two positions, either going, it just is what it is. I don't know. I just felt like doing it and I did it. Yep. Or I start telling lies. I start talking bullshit and then over analyzing my work. Do you know what I mean? And
I do know exactly what you mean. Yeah. I know exactly what you mean. I do know. I can look at my paintings now and formulate answers only because I've been allowing myself to even answer questions, because there was a time where I didn't want to you and I talked about this once on my party art stream thing. I'm like, don't fucking ask me. Don't ask me what I use, which is ironic because this is exactly what we're going to go into next. Is Q&A for the artist.
What was the first artistic creation you ever created? A shoebox. I drew a shoebox in my living room in 1984 or 5.
On paper, like were you
on a piece of paper? Yeah, I was only little. I was only about 4 or 5. My sister was lying on the floor drawing a shoebox, and I sat down and copied it. That's the first time I can remember drawing.
That's so cool. And then what I was going to say about what I can say about my paintings is that I can usually tell you that love is somewhere in there for some reason, somehow.
Yeah, I would agree with
that. I do know that. And then the other thing I can almost always say and guarantee you is that I could probably point out the mistake that led to the painting being the way it is, because I have a Bob Ross happy mistake in every one of my
everyone does. Everyone does.
Painting.
What do they say? It's like a couple of minutes to start the drawing. You spend the rest of the time rescuing it or fixing it.
I just finished an oil painting yesterday, Max, and I almost couldn't stand myself because I was laughing so hard. I was taking the black paint and I was trying to mix it, and I accidentally flicked the brush outside of the little bend, and it literally splattered.
That's okay.
Big bubbles of black all over this painting, an oil painting.
Yeah.
This is not Art Deco here, man. Like, we're not going for some spreckled effect. You know? And I sat here like this. I'm like,
have you ever heard of Bill Sienkiewicz?
I figured. Did I ever have a what?
Have you ever heard of Bill Sienkiewicz?
Mm-mm.
I'll send you some videos. He's a comic artist that comes from a fine art background, and I think his method is to just continuously work into the picture until it starts to look like the dude's just fearless.
There are times that I've abandoned the piece because it's done, or technically, is it done? And I don't know who the quote is. I've heard it a few times. The thing about a painting's never done, the artist abandons it. I don't know who that quote's from, but
I don't know who it's from. I say it all the time though.
I can relate. And this only just recently happened. So if I can look at it, and I know I can look at it on my wall for the rest of my days, then I'm okay with it, and I'll be done.
I'm not sure if I could look at my artwork.
I'm
happy to get rid of them once they're done. Well, I've got to go.
That's the other measure, is that if I am happy with selling it the way it is, and I would buy it, in other words, so when I'm looking at it at a certain point and I go, okay, if I walked into a gallery and I saw this, would I buy it? And if the answer is yes, then I'll probably be done. I'll probably move on. Okay. And I know you're going to know why I put this one in here. What mediums do you use?
S.
Right.
I use all mediums.
I'll do that.
I use everything that's available to me.
So what's around you like right now? What are you using today? I know you're probably working on a piece right now.
I've got a lot.
Is that a big pan thing of
it's
paint?
Just a plate, and I use it as my.
That's rad. Speaking of that, well, just looking at your plate, I just remembered I haven't done it yet, but in one of, I think it was Bob Ross's videos or some other painter, they said when you mix a bunch of your paints to kind of create your own hues or your only, because a lot of my paint's not right out of the tube. Do you do that a lot? Mixed colors?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So the painter suggested, like, if you really like hues that you've created mixing your stuff, is to get a blank palette to the side of you and use it to create a color swatch thing for yourself.
Yeah, but I always try and do that, and I always try to be. I am naturally just a chaotic, messy person. So every time I try, that's what happens when I try and make color swatches. It's just a mess.
Just saying, I know. Trust me, Max. I'm saying this and I'm laughing at your answer because I don't have a color swatch. Yeah. I'm the same way.
I just learned to cope with my own chaos. I think that's the only way I've been able to have any modicum of success.
It's a mess, man. By the time I'm done, yesterday I literally look like I probably worked in a coal mine after I was done with that oil.
Yeah, on the side. I pull my clothes up as well.
What is the largest art piece you've ever created?
Probably ROKAN.
That's a big one, considering even though it size-wise isn't big, but how many pages is this book?
It'll only be 30 pages, but it'd be the first
Only
time
30.
But
Only
well,
30.
it's short. It's small for a comic book, but it'll be the most pages I've ever painted and completed for a comic book or anything for that matter. But I don't usually work bigger than A3. I've tried a mural once or twice. It was all right. You got only to practice.
Well, I say you're so humble. It's so cool because if anyone who's watching has seen this man's work, one page, holy crap! Do you have one right there, real quick? You can show everyone.
I've got one I'm working on. Or I can
He's
just
gonna untape it from the board. He did. I'm so sorry, Max.
It's all right.
You know, because my like I get it because only 30 pages. 30 pages of your art done the way you do it is mind-blowing to me because I've never watched you do a page from start to finish other than the time lapse. But how long does it take to do one of those? Like just one of those? Hold on, let me
It's
put
nowhere near finished. But...
Oh, wow. Yeah. So how long roughly, do you have an idea? Like how long does it take you to do a page?
I don't know. Sometimes I'll honestly I'll be able to pencil it, ink it, well, roughly ink it, and then fully paint it in like a day. And then sometimes it takes me 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
It's just look at the draw, isn't it? Like how you're vibing with the piece, how well it turns out. Like the worst thing. Sorry.
Do you get to a point where you will put it aside and you won't fuck with it for a while because you need a break from it?
I try, Doris, but I'm very obsessive. So when I start something in my head, I'll be saying, just put it away now and do something else, or go to bed or whatever. And I'll be like, no, just this one, just this one,
just one more, just one more.
Yeah, just this one bit. And then sometimes because I've been looking at the thing all day, I've lost the sense of the image itself, and I'll overwork it. And of course, if you do that to a too large extent, the piece is ruined. So I have been known to like work on something for 3 days and then just tear it in half and start again.
Yeah, I've done that a few times. Most of it I have gotten. I'm not perfect at this, but I have gotten good at recognizing that point of no return, like you just described, where if I start, I'm not feeling it. If I'm getting anxious, annoyed, frustrated, or anything not like, and I kid you not, again, Bob Ross, if you're not happy, if art's not making you happy, if I'm not feeling happy, I got to put this away.
Yeah.
And the other one that's a big tell for me is if I'm starting to get sloppy. Like if I'm like just kind of like whatever, I'm like, this is definitely the time to put this away.
I see they're all great points and they're good red flags to look out for, but I genuinely have issues, like trouble even recognizing that those things are happening until I go, oh, this is shit. So, and then you just gotta bite the bullet. However, though, if I do start something and then I get to that point and tear it, and then I have to do it again, I usually can do it in a fraction of the time. Right? It's like I've cleared my head and then I know what I'm doing. It's really weird.
So, have you ever done galleries or art fairs or other kinds of showing of your art?
I published a comic in 2018. It was only a 4-pager. It was completely different sort of artwork that I do now. It was really at the beginning of when I started trying to get back into it. So I doubt people would even recognize the work, to be honest. I wasn't that happy with it.
Okay.
But you just got to, go through that. But yeah, we did a couple of conventions. We were in a few comic shops and we sold some stuff. So yeah, I suppose I've done that, and I've done the odd gallery here and there with just little things.
Have you ever worked on canvas?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. who, and I think you've already answered this, this is the one I was saying that was the question you may have already answered when you were talking about Simon.
Simon Bisley.
One artist you'd suggest others discover over any other?
I mean, yeah, he's quite the heavyweight in the comic industry. I mean, he's like the if you study your comic artists enough, you'll always find who their influences were, and then you can find this. It's like a little ladder of style. So that the first guy, before I discovered Simon Bisley, there was another fella that I really enjoyed called Greg Staples, who also did acrylic comic art. And then I found out that his mentor was Simon Bisley. Well, I went to Simon Bisley, and then I found out that his main influence was Frank Frazetta, and Frazetta's like the king of acrylic and oil fantasy art, right? Nice. So it sort of trickles down, and now it's really nice to some of the podcasts that have been on have very nicely compared some of the work to Bisley, and I take that as a massive compliment. So I like to think I'm right down on the bottom, but I'm sort of on the train there.
I can relate to this feeling because it was a while before someone said to me. Now I knew Gustav Klimt was an influence. I could have told you that. I know that he's my favorite. But what I didn't realize until after I had sold a few paintings was someone mentioned my paintings look like stained glass windows to them. And I hadn't really, like, I hadn't made the connection.
Sure.
And I had to think about it, and I did, and I paused, and I'm like, oh yeah, you know, I was this foster kid who grew up in a myriad of really interesting ways and bad ways, good ways, whatnot. But stained glass windows were one of the most beautiful things I saw as a kid. In a world of ugly, stained glass windows were one of the most beautiful things I ever saw.
Do you think you subconsciously put some of those things into your work? Yeah.
100%. Every single time to this day, I know for a fact now that someone has said that to me years ago, and I know this now. I will look at a painting I've done, and if it doesn't have the black outlines separating the components of the color or separating the components of the figure, my imagery in my mind will want to add those.
Okay.
And sometimes I have fought it and left it alone. But the reality and truth of the matter is, Max, that I almost always end up going to it.
Yeah.
Even this really, like, I did this piece recently, Belle, you may have seen it. She was on my Instagram, but she's a nude. She's wearing panties, but she's mostly nude. And I couldn't take it. I really intended to not do any lines or outline kind of thing. And I couldn't take it. I couldn't stand her. I couldn't take it. And I ended up going back, and you know what's crazy? Today I look at her, and she to me is a comic book panel, because I even did the black border.
Sure.
I did the black line, the thin lines, and I did the black border, and I'm like, I've been looking at comic books.
Oh, that's good. It means it's having 100%. An impact.
I influenced by it. Okay, so we do have a new. We have other people in chat. We have quite a few people watching. For the viewers that are watching, there isn't a campaign link in the YouTube chat for a campaign called ROKAN that Max is the artist on, and that is still in demand. And what else? Oh, and so Brianna is here. She says, how is everyone doing? And Crimson Owl told her, hello, doing good. And she says, and here I am drawing a stained glass window coloring page for you, Doris. Would that be too on the nose? That is exactly her and I's connection. 100%. Since the moment we were in a chat together on a stream, there's a connection there. And her and I are going to do a side-by-side drawing stream, coloring stream thing, where she's going to color one of my art pieces that I've done in as a coloring page. Because I have this thing now where I'm taking my art and making coloring books. Sure. And we're going to do a color side-by-side together. And she's creating a piece of art for me to color. I'm so excited. Fantastic. Okay. Oh, black and white. Now I know the answer to this one is probably color. but it's still in the.
I know, no, it's no. They're equally as good as one another. I may have told you this before. The ROKAN comic is probably going to be ongoing, assuming that people keep stay interested in it.
Right.
But it's probably going to be the only book I do this way.
Right.
I've got other ideas. I don't. When I think of other projects that I want to work on, I think of like completely different art styles that I want to do it in. I'm not. I used to be obsessed with having a sort of quote unquote style and a recognizable work, and now I'm sort of more interested in can I be malleable between styles enough to make the style fit the aesthetic of the individual story, as opposed to people picking it up and going, "Oh, that's a Max Headshroom comic." Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
I do.
I think I'm more the story and what suits the story is important to me. I think the aesthetic of a narrative is something I obsess over quite a lot, because that's probably why I like film as well.
Well, and I put this in here because one of the things that drew me to you as an artist and got my attention was your use of color, because that's, you know, I mean, you can see by what's behind me, lots of color and as much color and as bright. But what I'm learning, what's interesting to me is when I'm looking at pictures now, or I'm looking at artwork now, my eyes are drawn to black and whites more than they used to be.
It's easier on the eye, and because of that, there's some really creative tricks you can do with just not even without any grey, just black and white.
Right, I mean, just black and white.
There's a very famous comic series called Sin City by Frank Miller, which is just black and white. And he sort of draws it in this very flat noir style, but it's incredible. So I think maybe the next project I'd like to do something like that and just remove all the color and just go.
Well, I am doing. I'm about halfway through episode 1 of a new webtoons I created, and I've decided I'm doing it in black and white. I'm not going to color this. I'm not going to do colors. It's about robots. It's about domesticated robots that are like house robots, you know?
Cool. Yeah.
And so for whatever reason, I'm like, and it was funny because I questioned myself at one point with that idea, Max, when I was like, am I being lazy that I don't want to do the color or add color? And I realized, and this is why I love what you were saying, because I don't need the validation, but it makes me feel, okay, that decision's valid, because I don't want color.
Yeah.
I just don't even want to deal with it for the visual.
Yeah, totally understand. Yeah.
Okay. We kind of already touched on this a little bit, but what is paper your favorite? I know you said you've done canvas. Are you Bristol, right? Is that paper you held up? Is that Bristol board?
It's sort of it's like a multi-purpose paper.
Okay.
It's fairly cheap. I just buy it in like WH Smith's, and it's just a big pad, and I just tear it out and draw on it, you know.
The reason I ask is I do know at some point, when I get to the point where I'm going to do the imagery and artwork for the second volume of the haiku series, I know I want to use better paper than what I used.
Yeah.
And I've toyed with the idea of Bristol board. I use mostly watercolor as opposed to acrylic. So I'm thinking about actually getting a watercolor pad of paper.
Yeah.
It's just more expensive.
Yeah, it's really thick.
Yeah, because it's really thick. But that's why I was curious. And then, of course, canvas. Do you have any of your canvas pieces?
No, I've worked on canvas before, but it's been a good while since I.
Because you try to get rid of your art as soon as you don't keep it, right?
Nah, I hate all my work. I have art dysmorphia, clearly, because I think my work's kind of shit. But
you're so cute. It's funny to me. It's it's twofold. One, the humility. I love that, because whether you recognize that as humility or not, that's what that is. And then the second,
I don't know if I'd call it humility.
If it's genuine,
qualify humility.
Okay, well, honesty. Honesty is, in my opinion, there's a lot of definitions to humility. For those watching, you can go Google it. I'm not the all know her.
I know.
But the best definition for humility I ever found was honesty. And so if you're saying you like hate your work, I named my company, I named the art part of it, Doris Jones Labors of Love, because everything I do has love in there somewhere.
Sure. I love creating.
We can call yours Labors of Hate.
Labors of Hate, yeah. That's a good name for a rock band, isn't it?
Well, and if
metal,
it's dark material or scary or
whatever. I love the creative process, Doris. So
right.
I love the conceptualizing of what I want to do. I love thinking, oh, this is going to look great. I'm just never satisfied with the thing that I create, and that's because I said before, I'm probably unhealthily obsessive about the artwork.
So with that, like, if you don't know off the top of your head, we don't have to go look, but do you know how many people are going to be getting this comic book?
It's over 100 right at the moment, I think.
So over 100 people are going to have Max in hand.
Yeah.
Forever. Does it give you an immortality feeling?
I don't know, because like
he's like, no,
I don't know. I honestly don't know. I tell you what, I've sold quite a lot of original art doing this, doing the comic, and that's been really great. But I suppose
oh my God, I just remember. Oh my God, this whole time. Keep going. I'm listening. I totally forgot. I wanted to put this. For those of you watching, the ways to get a hold of Max are at the bottom of the screen. Max can be found on Twitter, but if you want to email him for commission work, his email is there, maxheadshroom1@gmail.com. I meant to have that scrolling during the show, Max.
Oh, it's okay. Don't worry about it.
Okay, so
what was I saying? I can't remember what I was saying there.
Crimson Owl said, most horror looks great in black and white.
Yeah, true.
Brianna says, I hear Bristol mentioned a lot. What is it, though? It's a paper. I do know, for me, Brianna, there's two kinds of Bristol mostly. There's the vellum and there's smooth. And I'm probably going to get both because vellum is more porous. It takes more of whatever you're working with. So if you're more of a marker ink kind of liquid type of wet, you'd want the vellum, but smooth is better for inks and pencil and stuff. Apparently, listen to me, Max. I've been around you comic guys. I think I just spit out something that Ethan Van Sciver said, almost not quite verbatim, not quite. I don't know. He uses smooth because of course he's more in the comic book world, but
sure.
I just cracked myself up. I'm like, who's talking right now? I was like, who is, like, I'm answering someone else's question about Bristol board. I didn't know what the fuck Bristol board was.
I deleted it till the first time I started using it.
She says the quality of having a low view of one's importance, but this must be about humility, but I like to replace the word low with realistic. Honest would work great too. Another definition of humility is if you think about others more than you're thinking about yourself. That's a form of humility.
Okay.
When you're appreciative of your value without having to one up other people or exaggerate yourself, that's a form of humility. Those are all. She looks up definitions to English words a lot, being Dutch. She's a writer and she's written books in Dutch, but she's writing one in English, I think, right now. And she can correct me if I'm wrong. Fantastic. So that doesn't shock me that she went look it up. Okay, let me go back to what we had in here. I think, so the last question in here is, have you ever done or will you ever do a collaboration with another artist on the same piece where both of your hands have touched it? Has that ever happened?
I haven't, but I absolutely would. In fact, I was talking, I think you're having him on soon, actually, Aria Blackness.
Mm-hmm.
I talked to him quite a lot, and we've been chatting about trying to combine something.
Oh, nice.
He does artwork that I think I could paint quite well, actually. So I think we're going to try and do something like that. I've just got to convince him to find the time to draw something for me.
Man, well, the reason I ask, and this is one of the reasons I asked, was if I had to think of someone I would go to color or paint one of my pieces instead of me. You're one of the first. You're one of the first people that would come to mind. 100%.
Thank you.
100%. And then the other reason is the answer for this is no for me, but I did recently do a G.I. Jane pinup sexy girl pick. Okay. And I'm sending that original penciling to a Rosetta Eagle Rider, and she's going to do the colors on it. And
fantastic.
Yeah, I'm terrible at getting things mailed out. I have a stack of growing of things I need to mail, and I'm gonna. Hers is in there. Hers is one of the ones that's in there. So
you're an artist.
And at first, like when I first thought of it, I'm like, yeah, no. But now I'm excited about the idea.
Why? What turned you off about it initially?
I don't know where it came from. I don't know why it's here, why it's in my head, but I like to be unique. I don't want to do something everybody else has done. I don't want to do anything that anyone else has ever done. I don't want my work to look like anything anyone has ever done.
I see.
One of the reasons I do fine art that is original and singular pieces of art is because of that. I'm not interested. Now I'm getting interested. I'm doing my own webtoons, or I'm doing my own thing like that, where taking my own art and replicating it, I'm becoming more open to that. Even replicating my own art, Max, sounded like cheating to me.
Like repainting your own work, you mean?
But I've done it. This is a shift. My 2021 has been a shift in this closed-minded, biased purist that was living in here. She is slowly dying or slowly going away. Wow. And similar to what you were saying earlier about your work being more malleable to other techniques or other variations or other myriads, that's what I'm doing. That's where I'm at.
Sure.
I'm opening up to it. I've done commission work this year for the first time. I had only ever done one commission piece before this year, and now I've done like 4 or so. Right. And to take someone else's concept or idea of what they want on a canvas and to create it for them, I was always a fuck no to that. No, I'm an artist. I'm an original artist. I don't do your
idea. Yeah, I sort of get that. I remember thinking when I know I wanted to do a graphic novel or a comic, I think initially I was like, well, I'm going to write it, I'm going to ink it, I'm going to paint it, I'm going to do the lot, right? Because I don't really want to be working with, I don't want to be drawing other people's shit. Just the idea of it was like, why the fuck? This is me. It's got to be all mine. But what I found out was I'm not a writer. Well, I am a writer. I'm a shite writer. I have like these grandiose conceptual ideas, and then when I try and break that down into a narrative and write dialogue and stuff like that, I quickly found out that I thought it was just going to be a footnote in me making this grand piece of art, right? But it's just as big, if not bigger, than the artwork itself, right? And I think part of that was probably me being pretty naive about how talented you have to be a good writer. And I think once I got my head around that, and then Ben sort of contacted me out of the blue, I was like, nah, man, I need to be. I think I was being a bit arrogant in thinking that I could just tear off all of this and just chew it up and swallow it. Right. But if I just let somebody do it for me and just let go of that control, then maybe it could be fun. And it is, I think that the secret was meeting a creative partner that was like, look, this is my story. This is the feeling I want to get across. I'm not a visual person at all, so I'm going to give all of that responsibility to you. So I'll create this world, but the aesthetics were all given to me, and I feel like that's almost better than me writing my own, because I still get to do the creating that I want, but I don't have this weight of narrative on my back. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I do know what you mean. It brings to mind. So I wrote a narrative children's story. I've had it written for ages. I wrote it when my kids were kids, and it was written out narratively. And then I thumbnailed it. Hi, Pops. Hey, yo. Yeah, it's Matt.
Pops.
Pops. Hi, Brianna. Okay, so I thumbnailed it. And when I thumbnailed it, the story changed. And then I read the story. And then I took the thumbnails and I wrote a script, as an actual script, panel by panel, page by page kind of thing. More in the style of because the idea, if it comes to fruition, is a children's book for parents to read to their kids or for a kid to read, but it'll be in a comic book.
Yeah.
It won't be like this cute little children's book like a Dr. Seuss hardcover thing. It's a comic book, but it's intended for parents to have something fun to read to their kids.
For sure.
And I have a mentor who's helping me along. He's giving me advice. And what you were describing made me think about spoken word poetry, because this year, part of all of my open-mindedness that has come to me this year, creatively, artistically, started with the fact that I started doing my poetry out loud, spoken, in a performing way, because I followed a poet who does his poetry that way.
Yeah.
And Max, it made me a better poet, because when we say something out loud, it is not the same as when we're reading it on paper.
Not at all.
And there were many times that I didn't always change the poem, but I would add a line, I would shift a line, I would use a different word. And blew my mind. That experience blew my mind. And so it opened up the door to all these different things. And why it related to what you were describing was the story you had in here, this one, but then you'd sit down to do it or whatever.
Sure.
It almost, I can't speak for others, but I know for me as a writer and an artist, I had always done them compartmentalized. I'd always separated them.
Right.
And I think this, because my haiku book was the first time I ever did the two together.
Sure, yeah. I get that, because you do singular pieces as well without the...
And what you just described is exactly the struggle I went through when I sat down to do the illustrations for the haiku book, because I hadn't ever I had never done that before.
Yeah.
And it was it was an experience. It was very
there's more,
but it was amazing. It was
it's weird. I'm sorry. I interrupted you.
We're both so excited.
So sorry. There's a weird freedom drawing somebody else's stuff. You're not beholden to your own rules, and you can become an over perfectionist with your own writing. And because I'm so
I love that,
tunnel visioned on the thing that I'm doing,
right?
I'm a perfectionist. So it was a project that I'd created in my head that was never going to get done. It was just far too big for me to do.
I've definitely learned the humbling lesson that a lot of why I did some of what I did, or why I believed the way I believed, was more about judgment. I didn't think there was any real art in sequential art.
I understand.
And I was such like, oh. And the truth is that it's just different. It's just different. It's just as different as red from the color green, or there is.
Yeah, it was like anything.
It's different.
Once you get into looking at more of it, you see all the different styles and stuff like that. The more sort of, I can understand why people think that when they see the more commercial end of comic books. Not that they're all bad
Yeah.
art or anything like that, but it's a very sort of house style that you sort of see.
There was a time the idea of a dollar sign affiliated or associated with my art made me want to vomit like that. I actually would get a physical response, because to me, part of it is because art started for me as a spiritual outlet from trauma. It was my escape from the traumatic things that I had dealt with. Mm-hmm. So to turn that at some point to a thing I would make money from felt like I was kicking a gift horse in the mouth, a kind of thing, that that expression, like this is a free, this shouldn't be something people have to pay for, is what what I mean? Like,
yeah, I get that. I understand that. But then on the other side, you could go, well, why aren't people taking art seriously?
Well, speaking of seriously, I'm going to shift us to the last 4 questions of the day. What are 3 things, if I were to go to your wife or a friend or a relative and I ask them about Max, tell me 3 things about Max, what are those 3 things that you would hope they would say about you, that you strive for?
I don't know what I would hope, though. I think I have a good grasp on what they might say. Let's say I was... these are all going to sound really bad, but well,
like... don't tell me what they would say. Tell me what you would hope they would say.
Oh, well, I hope they would say that I wasn't smug, that I wasn't intense, and that I had and that I was very patient.
Are you trying to imply that you're the opposite of those things?
I don't think I'm the opposite of those things. They might say that I'm the opposite of those things.
Tense, tense, like intense. Oh, intense. Yeah, definitely. I would definitely have described you as an intense artist, because when I look at your art pieces, I'm like, this is not some run-of-the-mill schmuck and playing in the shallows here. This man is on a fucking mission. That's what I see when I look at it. I kid you not. I'm like, oh. But otherwise, as a person, just the little I've known you and the friendship we have, you're the most laid back, chill man I've ever met. Like, really?
I'll tell him that.
Yeah, he's like, I'm gonna go tell them that, Dori. They need to see the chill Max.
I think that artists in general tend to be. I mean, I don't know. Actually, I don't know if I agree with what I was just about to say. I was going to say a lot of artists can be pretty intense, especially when you get them talking about something that they're very interested in.
Well, one of my stand-up comedy jokes is a conversation between a guy and me, and the guy says, "Man, you're crazy," and I go, "Hey, I told you I was an artist."
Yes. Wow. There you go then.
Why am I having to explain myself to you again?
so I think from when I say intense, I think they if you get me talking about something that I'm passionate about, I'll sort of zero in on that thing for ages.
Oh man, I definitely, it's not in this Q&A part of it, but can you share what the one topic might be that gets you in a state of heated passion or a state of getting on a soapbox, if you know what I mean?
Wow, there's only 2. Like this is the thing about being someone that's like intense, right? When it comes to your interests, you only have the energy for a few things in your life, and apart from like the obvious like relationships and stuff like that.
Yeah.
We
do those when we not art.
I'm only good at 2 things, and one of them is art, and I'll talk about that forever. And the other one is Thai boxing, and I'll talk about that forever as well. So
Thai boxing?
Yeah.
Is that please?
It's a martial art. It's
okay.
I've been doing it for
Thai, like TAI?
Yeah, from Thai. TH.
TH. Okay, yeah. Oh, like Thailand?
From Thailand. Yeah.
Oh my god. Do you like? Okay, what's your favorite martial arts movie?
Hung Back.
Hung Back.
ONG space BAK.
Okay. Favorite martial arts character or actor, I mean, or martial arts guy?
Oh, right. I'm gonna have to say Van Damme because I just love the cheese.
Oh,
He's not
wow.
necessarily a great martial arts guy, but I
No,
just think
but
he's hilarious.
I get the answer. Like, I can totally relate to that answer.
I
See,
loved him when I was a
my
kid. He's brilliant.
he's pretty brilliant. My favorite, and almost honestly for the same reason, is Jackie Chan.
Yeah,
Because
Jackie Chan's ace.
he's fucking hysterical. The man
Yeah.
should have been a comic. I mean, he
Yeah.
is a comic. He is a comedian, and a comedian in martial arts. Not like his not martial arts, but he's someone who's a martial art genius master.
Yeah, yeah.
Who adds
absolutely.
comedy to. I love that about
Yeah.
him. So that's why when you said Van Damme, I was kind of surprised. But then
It's just fun. He's like the cut price Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he just makes me laugh.
oh yeah, but I get it. When you said the why, I'm like, oh well, yeah, that makes perfect sense. Brianna says you need to be a rather strong personality that stays relentlessly authentic to have any success in whatever kind of art or entertainment. I think. I would agree. I mean, I think if you're like, well, here, buy my art, it's kind of good. I don't know that that's going to go over so well. Like, I mean, I don't know what,
No, developing negotiation techniques about your own work is something I found difficult at first. I don't find it difficult at all now.
Well, I did, it's cool about what you just said. You just reminded me that. So when I did post on my shop that I was going to take commission work, I strongly, passionately, and unapologetically put it in the description that the artwork, even though it's their concept, will still be done with abstract, realism, and symbolic methods akin to what I do.
Sure.
So I've had it at least one time someone come to me about doing a portrait, but they wanted it to be like a portrait, like you're going to look almost like a photograph. And I'm like, I'm not your girl.
Yes.
I'm not your girl. I'm not going to do it. I have an artist friend that paints just like that, so I knew who to send them to.
But I've had similar experiences where people have asked me to like draw their family and stuff like that, and I'm like, mate, have you seen my work? Like, it's not, and they're going, well, people that aren't familiar with it, they just see like a piece of art that they like, and then go, oh, you can create something that I like, so can you create this? And then it's difficult getting into that conversation where you have to go, look, there are different sorts of art styles, and I hate going into that with people that aren't into it because
right.
I just feel like an asshole. Just I feel like pretentious. Do you know what I mean?
I do know what you mean. And I've just had to learn ways of saying it. I go, listen, I know my limits and I know my skill sets. I'm not perfect at even the ones I do have.
Yeah.
That's one I don't. And even now I am learning never to say never, Max, because I have I done portraits? Yes. I have done a few. They were all gifts. They were not commission work, and they were strictly gifts I gave to people and did. And the reason the mojo, whatever I needed to create them, existed to do those pieces was because they were gifts.
Sure.
Okay. If heaven exists, Max, if it exists, what do you want, or what would you like to hear God say to you when you get there?
You tried hard.
You tried. Oh, I love that. That's
all that matters, isn't it? That you try.
That's a great answer, right? Like, just validate me. Like make or not validate me, but
you just made me sound totally pathetic.
I'm
retracting
my Max, that was not about you. That was me. I was like, I want to hear God say "good girl."
Yeah, of course you do. God's your dad, isn't he?
I had an ex-boyfriend, and he would not. It was never pandering, and it was never meant to be condescending. But he would say "good girl" to me when I would do something or when I would say something, and it was his way of saying "good job" or "high five."
Yeah, whatever. I totally get that. Sweet.
I didn't mean to make what you said sound that way.
I'm only messing. I'm pulling your leg, mate. It's all right. Imagine.
Now I've humbly and wholly, honestly own the fact that there was a few times I did stuff for him just because I wanted to hear "good girl."
Nothing wrong with that either.
Because him saying that to me was as close to heaven as I could feel like I was going to get.
Sure.
Of course, that was back then when I still loved him and cared about what he was going to, whether he lived or died.
I take it he's changed a bit now then.
I still hope he's alive. I wish peace and joy on all of my exes, but I must, and hey, I have to be kind to them, Max, because honestly, there really should be a support group for my exes to be able to join up and get together and hang out. Because
maybe they can do their own podcast.
I'm serious. There should be a whole Dori's Exes podcast. That would be it'd probably fucking go viral.
Christ, I never want to have a Max Exes podcast.
Have you ever seen the movie Runaway Bride?
Yes.
So I'm a cross between that and like the I don't know, I'll come up with the other whatever. But I'm a lot like people that don't get me or they don't understand why I'm single, don't understand that I'm a combination of Samantha from Sex and the City. I've got all kinds of Runaway Bride in there. And my dad, honestly, this is the best answer I could give anyone for why I'm single. My dad was a Navy SEAL. Yeah. And after he left the Navy, he went on to be a stuntman.
Fucking hell.
And a stick dynamite guy for the oil companies. He was known as the stick man. And he was the guy you called if the job was so dangerous that the person would probably die. They knew to call Tom. My dad's name was Thomas. They knew to call Tom because he had a death wish. He had a death wish. He didn't care. He was an adrenaline junkie.
Yeah, he sounds like an hard case.
So when I meet guys, and this is in my stand-up comedy. When I meet guys, it always cracks me up when they try to act all badass and I'm the big bad Joe motherfucker. And I'm like, and I'm the daughter of this guy that I just described, right? And I'm all, you don't impress me.
The shadow of dad.
I'm like, I'm sorry, you don't impress me. It also explains why I dated two professional surfers, a base jumper guy, a parachute jumping guy. I had this thing where I'm like, oh, are you gonna maybe die tomorrow? Okay, we must date. Anyway, back to Max. You're in heaven. What do you ask God? What is that burning question? Do you have one? Do you have any?
I suppose at that point it would be just what's the point?
What's the point? Yeah.
But,
I don't know. I sometimes wonder what the point of something is, but I don't know about you, but do you ever find that you get the answer kind of maybe later down the road? Like you get, Brianna said she had to go find my bed and catch some Z's. Love you, girl. Aria Blacksmith says, Max, tell us a joke. And then we can get back to this question.
Aria. What was the question? Oh yeah, what would I ask? Yeah.
You said what's the point? You said what's the point?
Do I think you figure it out down the line? I mean, I think.
Oh, my question. Yeah, like
responsibility is probably the point in life, right? You're supposed to take on responsibility because you get meaning from responsibility, don't you?
Yeah. Well,
so you're supposed to pick it up and run with it. I feel.
Do you ever feel, and this is, if you don't, it's fine. As an artist, asking another artist, do you ever feel like there's something that makes you feel that, I hate using the word validated again, but makes you feel
it's okay, you can use validated.
Satisfied. Makes you feel satisfied at a soul level that you have art that you're going to leave behind. So like, I think about this all the time, Max. If I get hit, and my kids fucking hate it when I say this. If I get hit by a bus tomorrow,
you've got your legacy is your art.
Do you know how much legacy there is left behind by my stamp of art and poetry and books and now YouTube and Spotlight? I mean, It's fucking, my kids could literally sit back and have like a Dori mom marathon for weeks on end of I'm serious. This is like, I think about this.
Yeah,
Morbid?
I probably feel it on a more on a subconscious level. Like, I don't know why I like artwork. Here's the thing as well, like, going back to the beginning, I don't like to break it down too much, because I'm worried if I figure out how the sausage is made, I'm not going to want to eat the sausage anymore. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do know what you mean. And I want to say that it's Maureen O'Hara, that someone asked her this question once about what would God say to her if she went to heaven, and her answer was, he would say, how was it? And she implied, and the implication is that earth is heaven, that heaven, if we believe and choose to live our life as if we're in heaven, with zero concern about what if and where we go and all that bullshit. Not that I'm calling your spirituality bullshit, any of you listening. Don't come at me, bro. But that was what I loved about what you just said, because it ties into her quote about this is heaven. We're just here. Let's just do now. Let's make now perfect, or as good as it gets.
Otherwise, what's the point in?
Let me enjoy I think that's part of the point.
I honestly let's
enjoy it.
I don't know if I would describe myself as spiritual. I kind of think that there probably is something else later on.
Yeah.
But I feel like you wouldn't be able to understand what that is. It'd be like trying to describe your living room to your goldfish.
Yep. If I can describe it, then I'm probably not a true believer.
Yeah.
And the last question, a lot of people don't like answering, but you can say pass. But if you could damn one person to hell, if I gave you that power, gifted you the power to damn someone to hell, or a type of person, who would it be and why?
Oh, I don't know if I'd use it, Doris. Because a lot of people
pass.
Hell's a really like the worst. Yeah. We're talking the worst case scenario a human being could ever be in, right? I don't think I'd do it.
My answer is the same, because one of my favorite, and I created this, I didn't steal it from somewhere. I created it myself. Karma is the bitch God uses when he is busy.
Yeah.
So I don't have to worry about damning anybody anywhere, because she's going to take care of it. And then if he's really pissed off, or she or it or whatever it is, if they really need to take care of a whole group of humans, that's what we use Mother Nature
I think. Yeah. I just think that, like, the best revenge is a life well lived.
I love that. Okay, so we're at that point of the day, the interview, where I get to tell you you're out of the hot seat. I don't have any more Q&As. I don't have any more questions. I've gone through everything I meant to ask you today. You're out of the spotlight, my dear. Do you have some art around you that you want to show to people? I know for those of you that are here that are still watching, the Indiegogo campaign link is pinned in the YouTube chat. I'm gonna flip it real quick. It's on the screen as well. I mean, it's much easier to go click it off of YouTube. Another link I put in here for everyone. This is the link for Ben Jackson, who is the writer of ROKAN. This is his Twitter. It's at the handle. His Twitter handle is ROKAN Fiction. And so I'm going to put you on solo layout, Max, and show me what you have. Let's show off some Max pieces.
I can show you. A few pages. This one sold recently.
Oh, that's gorgeous. Is that a dark figure? Oh, he's kind of okay. I can see him. That's amazing. Anything can you say? I don't like spoilers, so don't do that. But
I mean, this is just page 2. That'll be
okay. Can you tell me what I'm looking at?
It's kind of a quick look into a nightmarish future before we start the actual story about ROKAN. ROKAN's about someone you could become. It's another
Okay.
another painted page.
Oh wow. I love the contrast of these two different parts of the page.
Some more. I should have a better camera, really, shouldn't I?
No, you're okay. And do you for these, similar to that video of you doing the Batman and Joker, do you do airbrushing painting with these?
I didn't with these.
You did? Okay.
No, the only reason I airbrushed with the Batman one is because when I was painting over the inks were running. So if you do like a layer of color in an airbrush, it seals the ink into the paper. So when you paint over it, it won't run anywhere.
Yeah, I've done that with my acrylic gloss spray before. I've never used an air gun. I had a friend recently ask me if I wanted one. She had been gifted one, and I'm like, no, had never really bothered. And then the piece you're working on, you retaped it down, didn't you?
I did, yeah.
Yeah, don't peel
do you want me to untape it again?
No, I know you would, but
I don't mind.
I'm good. They can replay. They can rewind.
Yeah, good point. Yeah.
They can replay and rewind. Leave it where it's at. Okay. Anything else you wanna throw out there? Promote, pimp Max. Your commissions emails down at the bottom.
Yeah, check out the Indiegogo. Go to my YouTube page. We've got a couple of shows that go on there with a fair few different people. I'm involved in all of them.
Saturday morning show, I know for sure.
Saturday morning cartoons on Saturday morning, and on Wednesday we do a show called The Snob and the Slobs with two other guys called Chris and Justin, where we basically just analyze. They pick a crap movie, we watch the movie, and then we chat about it for an hour.
How am I missing this? What time is that on Wednesdays?
That is 7:30 our time, so that's 3:30 your time on a Wednesday.
Okay.
Snob and the Slobs.
Yeah, so I have to admit, one of the downsides of having so many subscriptions to so many YouTube channels is they get lost sometimes. All the notifications are coming through at the same time.
Yeah, I can't keep up with all of them.
Do you have a plan for what movie you guys are going to talk about next week?
Yeah, we do. We're doing. I've never seen any of these films. These two guys are like shit film connoisseurs, so they feed me and then I report back. But this week is a film called Deathgasm.
Deathgasm?
Deathgasm.
Deathgasm.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. I can imagine what. Yeah, it's not a porn.
No, it's not a porn.
Is it a snuff film?
It sounds like it, doesn't it?
I know, right? Okay. I know it does. Deathgasm.
Deathgasm.
Okay, so now that we're through with all of that, this is the part of the show, the part of the hour where I get to gift you, like a granted wish per se, in a way, where you get to ask me any question, any burning question that you may have wanted to ask, something unique, something that you've thought, I want to ask Dori this. I can't be blackmailed, and I will answer you. So what is your question to be?
What is my question for Dori? What made you interested in coming over to the comic side in the first place?
I was following Christy Shen and watching her lunch hours, and the idea of doing digital art had never occurred to me before. And I really honestly was just a viewer. I was a viewer of these channels and stuff. And then I Pops and I were in a chat together on her stream one day. And then that subsequently brought me over to what really did it. What really sealed the deal for me was Rich Parada with the Incantessi.
Right. Okay.
Because he and I met similar through Christy Shin, through commenting on one of her posts, and he shared his first volume of Incantessi with me, and it was the first comic book I read as an adult. It wasn't the first one. I ended up, I've since backed more books than I know that my numbers are on my Indiegogo and my Kickstarter. I've backed so many books now. But his was the first one I read as an adult. Because he had finished his first campaign. I think he was working on the second. And then that's what got me over here to your channels and over into the chats. And then what really kind of shifted the whole thing, like almost on its head, head over heels, was when Pop said, I happened to make a comment in chat. I wasn't even in the stream. He had Mike Jimmy on, and they were talking about illustrating, and they were talking about because Mike Jimmy is not just a life on Quora. He has a whole company and a whole bunch of other stuff. And I made this comment in chat about how I have, because I have 2 children's stories, 3 total. 2, one I've already published, and I did these cute little.
Oh, you published one?
Oh yeah, I have one it's a children's coloring. The haiku book was my 9th book.
Right, you'll have to send me a link to that then.
My coloring book is this little cute children's coloring book called The Love Cloak, and it's a story. It's a children's story, but but I created. It's a dual thing. It's also, but trust me, I'm not winning any awards with these cartoons in these coloring cartoons in this book. No, but I made this comment about how eventually I want to do that with these other 2, right?
Sure.
These other 2 children's books. And Pops just said, why don't you go illustrate your poetry?
Yeah, that's a great idea.
And they're my everything else I've done since the haiku series that came out of me, the webtoons I started, and I did what really grabbed my attention. And I know this is a really long answer to a really simple question.
No, it's not. It's good.
But I'm almost having to like timeline it in my head as I'm talking to you. What made me a comic book creator, or a comic creator, because I haven't done a comic book yet.
Sure.
Where that came from is I had already written and had ready to do a comedy book. Originally, it was going to be a book of just a joke book.
Sure.
Because I'm a stand-up comic. I've done comedy writing for 16 years now. And I have 16 years of comedy writing, thousands of jokes. And I was like, okay, how am I going to present this? And I'm like, okay, I'll just do a book, and it'll just be a collection of my tweets and a collection of the jokes, blah, blah, blah. But then someone said, oh no, do one of those 365 a day, joke a day calendars, which is a great idea. And I still might do that. But the Amazon Beauty Does Dating, which is a play on words, because it's like the Debbie Does Dallas. Have you ever heard of that porn?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. So the Amazon Beauty Does Dating was born as an actual comic strip, and I created a webtoons, and I dabbled in it haphazardly and just didn't care much. And luckily I had a really great mentor come to me and go, this comic, I know you're trying here, but I was using stock art, Max. I was being super fucking lazy and wasn't.
Why did you think that was? Why were you being lazy?
Because I wasn't taking it seriously. To me, it was this thing. I was like, because I was over here illustrating the haiku book and illustrating this poetry collection I have coming out next, and I'm painting on canvas. Don't you know?
Right.
This webtoons.
Oh, I see.
So what the fuck do I care if it's high quality art? What the fuck do I care? And he called me out on it.
Yeah.
And I completely stripped it down, and I deleted it, and I started over.
Oh yeah, I had a similar experience when the first time I tried to break into comics on any level. I entered a 2000 AD competition in Britain. It's a British comic, like a sci-fi comic, and they basically gave out a script, and you had to illustrate 4 pages, and then go to them. And if you got through, you got a job working for 2000 AD. And this was at a point where it's gone back quite a long time. I'm sure I had hair at the time, so it was a good idea. I hadn't really been doing the artwork that much, but I'd had some praise for it when I was younger. So I thought I was the dog's bollocks. I thought I was ace. So I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to do this. I'm going to knock out these pages, and it's going to be me. I'm going to win. And I actually thought that way. What a dickhead. And of course, I did the work. I went there and I got blown out like immediately. And I think I sort of realized that I wasn't as good. It wasn't as easy as I thought it was.
Right.
And I think you can go in two directions there, right?
Yep.
One was like, my initial reaction was to have a tantrum and then go to the pub and go, well, fuck it, I'm never doing it again.
Fuck that.
Yeah. And then after an hour, I was like, no, I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna get good enough to do it.
Exactly. And that's exactly like and I know he won't mind me saying it, but Peter Palmiotti is the man who has become a guru for me. He's someone who helped me get my YouTube channel subscribers up to over 100. And he's the one who took the time. There's moments that make me feel arrived in a way in your world. Okay. When Peter Palmiotti goes to your webtoons and reads your webtoons to come back to you and give you constructive criticism,
you buzzing.
I'm like, and I mean, like he was very kind and everything he said was spot on.
Sure. Brilliant.
But hi Phil. Phil's here. Hi, he says, hey, Dori and Max. But he made his willingness to take the time to look at it, to take the time to come to me, no matter what my reaction could have been. Who do you think you are? Whatever it could have been.
Yeah.
He did it on my behalf, because he is definitely one of those, and you're like that. The masters, my opinion, the one most key component that makes a person a master in their world of creation, talent, is if they're willing to give it to others without needing accolades or needing payment. I mean, people should get paid for what they do. But do you know what I'm saying? Where they're willing to teach or they're willing to share. And hi Donna.
Absolutely.
He made me take it seriously. He didn't make me, but his encouragement,
sure, his
constructive criticism, his take. I deleted the whole. He didn't tell me to do that. He said you know, he didn't tell me to do any of that. I deleted it and I started over. Now, is the art great on there? No, I'm not a sequential artist, people. I'm not a fucking sequential artist.
Nor am I. I'm
just not. But I'm trying, okay? I'm trying. Step by step, I'm trying. The last one I did, I actually did it. Is it perfect? Fuck no. And I still suck at hands. But I did it the right way. I sketched, I inked, I scanned, I digitally, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't just... And I didn't... Everything is mine. As bad as it might be...
I'm sure it's not.
At least I know. At least I can say... That's all mine.
Yeah. And you mean it's another stepping stone, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And this is where, and I don't remember if it was you. Yes, it was you in a chat or something where you said tracing my own work was fine. Do you remember that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And
it's your work. You've already drawn
my work,
it. So
and I'm learning that. I took the new webtoons I have now. It just blows my mind, because all it took, everything that's, to answer your question, that story that's brought me into the world of comic books. It's kind of weird to be able to say I'm a comic book. Now,
well, I find it particularly interesting because you're coming from that other spectrum of the art world, where I was doing, like I said earlier, like I was doing the opposite at the same time. So I was really interested to know how you made your way in here. It's an interesting little community, isn't it? Everybody's been great to me. Like,
you know what?
I love everyone.
The easiest, the writer in me came over.
Sure.
And the artist in me sat back and thought, this wasn't my kind of thing. This isn't my genre. This isn't my thing, blah, blah, blah. But the writer in me, the poet, and I've said this before, poetry, one of the reasons I write poetry as opposed to novels is because I don't need all that fluff. I don't need all that description. I don't need all that narrative prose. Okay. I'm 51. I can't speak for anyone out there. I was an avid reader growing up. I've read more books than I can think of. I've read so many books. But to get me to sit down and spend a lot of time reading a novel is next to fucking impossible.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't have time.
No, I think I echo the sentiment.
So it's why I'm drawn to poetry. It's why I want the point. I want the point. And that's what comic books is a way for me to get this juicy, intense story, this wonderful world outside of this one, which that world is a little ugly. And I get to go into another space and time, but I don't have to spend 50 million fucking years there reading 100,000.
Yeah. It's I always look at it like it's somewhere in between film and writing, right? It's got a little bit of both and none of the other.
Sorry, Max, I interrupted you.
No, that's okay. I just say it's got a little bit of both.
But you hit the nail on the head, because comic book writing is more, because I've written a few scripts, I've written a few plays, and I've, one that was an actual short film I did, and then I've written that children's one I told you about. It originated, it was like a 3 or 4 page narrative that was supposed to be stretched out into an illustrated kids book, right? Well, what happens, I have exposure to someone like Mike Jimmy, Life on Korra, and I showed him he's the one that is encouraging me. I did thumbnails, now I'm going to do story panel pages to kind of storyboard it.
Fantastic.
Do I feel like I don't think my art is where it would need to be to actually illustrate that book.
What do you in your mind, what do you find hard, like applying your art to a sequential?
Because I draw an alligator, I want that to be the only fucking alligator I ever draw. If I have to draw it on the next page, I'm fuck that. The alligator's over there.
Right, I see.
Replicating and drawing something again?
You don't.
Maybe this is also
the replication is something that bothers you. But that's you see that.
Where my brain went on that metaphor.
The way around that is to fall in love with the narrative that you're illustrating. So then you don't mind, because I feel like it's a sort of a psychological approach to the work. If I was to think of the process as just taking objects and consistently drawing them from different angles for 30 pages, I don't think I could do it either, Doris. You have to add I would suggest you try and to make it more palatable for you, perhaps add another filter over the top. So I think of it in the terms of film scenes.
Okay.
I'll take the panel and then I'll go, right, what would that look like in a really well shot movie? What sort of mood would it be? And then I illustrate the scene as opposed to the same guy.
Well, I swear, when you said that, the way everything you just said is like you're in here and you know how to articulate.
Because I have those same trip ups. Like there's a certain mystery to artwork, right? And I need it to stay that way. So when I was learning how to draw, I really rejected a lot of technical ways to draw the human body, because I felt like I just want to draw a human body. I don't want to draw all the little lines. That's where the hips are and that's where the shoulders are, because that technical side of it sort of destroyed it for me. But once I figured out that you have to sort of do that. If you want to,
Yeah.
you genuinely want to be, it's not as bad as you think. It doesn't actually
Right.
do that. It's just an arbitrary sort of obstacle you put in front of yourself for some weird reason. I don't know why.
So when I created the webtoons I'm working on now, one of the things I did do differently is I drew my characters on quad grid ruled paper.
Yeah.
So that I could count out the space of their sizes and their proportions and you know, because I don't want to have to copy paste the character every time. I want to get to a point where I can consistently draw the same character, you know, like my Cybot. Okay, my Cybot in my webtoons is a one-eyed surveillance camera, but he's called Cybot.
Cool. I'm into it.
And I'm learning, okay, you're not doing this, Dori. Like I have to tell myself all the time, you're not painting a fine art painting on canvas. Stop giving it so much detail. It's a fucking surveillance camera. It's a cartoon surveillance camera. We don't need it to have like every.
See, yeah, but why are you saying it's a cartoon? What's the cartoon thing? Where's that coming from?
Well, it is a cartoon.
Why isn't it a fine art painted? Why can't it be a fine art painted piece in a panel?
Oh my god.
Why have you told yourself that you shouldn't be doing that?
Maybe I'm leaving it in black and white, and I want it to be cute for kids, and I want it to be something that is user friendly. I want it to be something easy on the eyes. It's fine. Like like Cyclops now, Cybot now to me is pretty easy. Like literally, like, so what I was saying was I drew the original cast. I did a cast sheet kind of thing on this quad ruled paper so that I could get proportions and stuff. And then I started doing I light box traced a few. Muscle memory.
Sure, yeah.
Muscle memory has become a friend. And then there will probably be times where, I mean, like a microwave, my microbot. It's because these are all bots, but they're all domestic bots. So
sure, yeah.
So anyway, so some of it will be easy to like just use a replicated piece and change the expression or change the, you know, because their position doesn't change. You know, if this were my only project, I could easily see me way taking this a million times higher in terms of art and time spent. But it's really this cute sci-fi story I've had in here for a long time.
Okay.
And I love sci-fi. Sci-fi is my favorite genre. And I'm a comedian. And this is what I do today, Max. I get an idea, and it's so cute because not cute, but do you remember when we were on my art stream and you asked like all of us, like, what do you do with all these projects you've got in a pile? And you know.
Yeah.
This was one of those ones that came to mind out of the middle of nowhere one night, and I just was sitting here anyway sketching. My until the day as soon as my Indiegogo haiku funds hit, I've everything I need is ordered except the books. And so that's what will happen once fulfillment starts. This little project's been keeping me busy until I can do my fulfillment.
Got you.
So yeah, it's been kind of fun though. I'm at the point though where I'm not lazying it is all I can say. Like the best thing I can say, no matter how imperfect or whatever it's going to be, there's nothing blatantly lazy about it.
Yeah, that's it, and that's easily done as well. You can have burnout with these sorts of projects. If you can put too much pressure on yourself, you can overwork. I think a lot of artists overestimate the amount of time they can work on a piece in one go. Like I can only do 45 minutes, and then I've got to go somewhere else for a bit.
Yeah,
otherwise I can't. I just can't consistently concentrate.
That's it. Yeah, 45. I was wondering about 45 minutes. That's definitely about right for sketching or it
This is
canvas
anything.
anything. Yeah. The only exception, well, I was going to say agree. I'm totally in that same mode as what you just said. The only exception for me is a canvas painting. I've had a few of them. I just had one the other day. I streamed live for over 2 hours with that one. Because I literally I was artgasming. Okay. I got to if he finally like I've been working on that oil painting since fucking May.
Yeah.
Okay. And I finally got him to a place like you were saying earlier about you're happy with what's in, I can't remember how you worded it, but and once he was there the way I wanted him to look, and I like the imagery finally on canvas was what I was
Sure.
I couldn't fucking stop. I was on fire. But
Oh,
one last thing I wanted to tell you, just because you're from England and it's a word apparently, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, or maybe you've never heard of it. But my webtoons that I'm working on episode 1 of is called the Bot Burkers.
The Bot Burkers.
Burkers. And the word Burke and Burkers. I want to, do you know, see, you know what this word means because it's more common in your country.
Yeah. It's an insult.
Yeah. And yeah, so the bot burkers, these domesticated bots. So the definition is two things. There's the derogatory meaning because you're like calling someone an idiot, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
Pretty much. And there's a definition for burk. A burker is someone who burks, and a burker is someone who tries to divert away from trouble or divert your opinion about something, or they think they have good intentions, but they're avoiding. Okay, so the bot burkers are a house of domesticated bots that are supposed to be microwaving and cooking and making coffee, but they think they're running the world.
Brilliant.
Okay. And they're the bot burkers because they keep fucking shit up because they are AIs and they're running the house. They're supposed to run the house, but they end up thinking they're running the world and they keep fucking up shit all over the place, not realizing that everything's happening in this little house with these bots that don't really know what they're doing outside the house.
That sounds excellent. Has anybody seen any of the work for this yet?
I'm literally on episode 1. I'm literally on episode 1, and I did create the name on the webtoons, and I created it. Like if you go to webtoons, it's there. Episode 1 is just a simple 1-page drawing panel of my CDOS prompt guy, just because I'm like Max. Sorry, I saw. I don't know where my head was. No one in the world's probably going to go think up bot burgers overnight, but I'm like, I'm going to create my webtoons right now. Like, get it out there.
That's what you do when you have an idea and you get really excited about it. That's one of the best parts of the creative process, isn't it?
Right.
The difficult bit is holding on to that energy for the entire project.
So I looked down. We don't have anyone else who's there. We are wrapping this up. I'm about to let Max go and have the rest of his data himself.
Thanks for having me.
What, hun?
Thanks for having me.
Oh, I'm honored that you were here. Super excited. A couple more times for those that are watching. Max's Twitter is down below. His email for commissions is scrolling across the bottom. The Indiegogo link is still. Do you know how long the Indiegogo campaign will still be in demand?
I mean, we were supposed to fulfill by November, but I think it's going to be a little later than that. Mainly because we've got more backers, we've done more perks and more pages, so then the project.
Which means Max has more masterpieces to create.
Yes.
So I am going to play the same video, your Batman Joker video, as the exit video. And if you would like to stay in the green room, I would be happy to tell you few other things about the bot burgers that I won't say publicly. But if you need to go, and you're not there when I'm offline, Max, I will not be offended. I know it's late where you are, because you're 8 or 9. I think it's 8 hours different than me.
Yeah, it's 11 o'clock.
Yeah,
I can stick around for a bit. Though.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to hit this. And for everyone watching, thank you so much for being here. Everyone who is in comments. And once again, Max, thank you so much. I'm honored.
You're welcome.
Thank you.